What's going on, guys? Matt here with Khaos Art, and welcome to your 5th tutorial. This is going to be on your blending options. This is basically what you're going to use to design anything. Blending options are so important, and I think literally in almost every single design that I've ever done that didn't have an actual image in it, I have used blending options. It is so unbelievably easy to use and just useful. So let's go ahead and jump into this real quick. I'm going to be doing it on some text. You can do it on literally anything. Doesn't matter if it's rasterized or vectorized. It will still work. Real images, images that you've created through Photoshop, anything at all, it'll work on. Different techniques and things that you can use with it that you'll see throughout the series. You'll see that you can use it on smart objects, text, rasterized text, shapes, all kinds of things like that. So you have several different ways that you can get into it. The main way that I do it is either by double clicking your layer or right clicking and going to blending options. Those are going to be the quickest two ways and the easiest ways to be able to know which layer you're jumping into. So I just try to move mine up to the corner so I can see my text down here on the screen so I can see what I'm doing to it. And if you've used a previous version of Photoshop, you may notice that the blending options look a little bit different now. Bevel and Emboss got moved up, Stroke got moved up, Drop Shadow got moved down. Gradient, Pattern, and Color are in the same place. All those are the same. And Outer Glow got moved down. The only reason I know that is because when I opened up Photoshop CS6 for the first time, I was like, what is this? Like, why did Adobe move all this stuff around? But you get used to it. It's not too big of a deal. But this is what your blending options look like. Currently, we are on the blending options :default. This is just your default options with whatever layer you have. You have blend mode, all these different modes, your opacity, fill opacity, channels, your knockout, then different options right here, blend if, gray. I generally leave mine on gray. Very nice. Then you have different blend if options down below it. So that's just going to be your default options. If you wanted to bring down the opacity on something, you can do it right here. A lot of you are probably saying, can't I just do that right here in this little menu? Yes, you can. But if you already have your blending options up and you're doing it, might as well just do it there. So let's go ahead and open this back up. And next you might see that there is Bevel and Emboss. It has little sub options below it. This is a highly overused design, if you ask me. It's good to use if you use it correctly. If it's used incorrectly, it really just looks like crap. But that's my opinion. A lot of people will just click Bevel and Emboss and be like, oh, it looks great right now. It can be so much better. I've used it before, and I've seen so many people use it incorrectly, and it just makes me cringe. But really experiment around with it. See what you like with it. Really, the main idea with Bevel and Emboss is to give your text or your image some depth. So when I selected Bevel and Emboss, just with the default settings, it made it look like my text is coming out of the picture a little bit. And that's your whole goal with it. But make sure that you're using it efficiently. Make sure it looks crisp and nice and clean. Then you have several options below it. You have Contour. Adds a little bit more depth to it, a little bit more color. You can click on that and change your contour options. You have these different areas down here that allow you to select those and see the different abilities that it has. It just gives you different angles on your lighting and effects and things like that. So I'm just going to reset mine back to default. Then you have your range and anti-aliased. So your range will give it either more or less of that contour ability. So go ahead and click that off. Then you have texture. It gives you basically a texture over your image. This is straight out of your patterns. So you have your default patterns, which should be these 5 or 6 or 5 right here. And then I have all of my extra ones that I've created or have downloaded. So you can add anything that you need over that. Kind of make it look like it's fabric or something. But just different options that you have. Go ahead and take that off. And that is Bevel and Emboss for you. With every blending option that you have the ability to go into it and edit it. So you have the inner bevel, outer bevel, emboss, pillow emboss, stroke emboss. They're all different. They all give you different looks, especially on the different colors that you use. You have these options down here, the highlights and the shadow mode. It'll really give you such a diverse different look with just changing it to a different color. Whether you're changing it to a lighter gray or a blue or a green, it can give you such a completely different look on it. Then everything else is kind of default with the depth, the direction up or down, giving it different appearances. The size of the bevel, take that back down. The softness of it, kind of make it look a little bit more round instead of sharp edges. The angle of it, same thing with these options down here. You can click them and it gives you different angles and lighting effects that make it look a little bit better. Highlight mode screen, I generally leave these alone down here unless you're really trying to change it for a specific color. If you had blue text, you may want to change your shadow mode from black to a dark blue. That would really be the only thing I would kind of recommend. Other than that, they generally work overall with everything. So let's go ahead and move on to the next effect. Stroke, very simple, very easy. I'll change this to red so you can see a little bit better. It gives you a stroke around your text. You have the size up here. You can make it as big or as little as you want. Bring that down to like 2. There we go. Position outside, inside the text, or center, which is basically inside and outside. Outside generally gives you the best look. It's very clean, very good. Stroke does not make your image look choppy. If your text or something is choppy, it is going around every pixel, so it will look choppy as well. So if you put a stroke on and you're like, why does it look like crap? It's because your image is not feathered or it's not vectorized correctly or something to the point of where it's very pixelated and doesn't work correctly. Then you have your normal options, the blend mode, the opacity of your stroke, the fill type, gradient or a pattern. So I could do a gradient over it, so it goes from black to white, going across, you can see. And then you have different options within each one. So your general gradient options, your patterns. You can select a pattern. If I wanted carbon around the outside or something like that, or fabric. Go ahead and take off pattern. I'm going to put this back on color. And just you have your basic color options. You can choose whatever color you want it to be. So let's put that on red. Take off stroke now. To enable or enable these, it's just a little checkbox. Just check it. See what it does. Inner shadow, well, since this is black, you're not going to be able to see anything until I change it. It gives you a shadow inside of your text, just much like stroke on the inside, but it's like a drop shadow. It just kind of gives you a little bit of a fade in. So let's change it to white. And as you can see, nothing happened. This is one of the times you're going to want to mess with your blend mode. If you are working with a drop shadow or something and it's not giving you the right color that you want, I recommend changing it from multiply or normal to hard light. Hard light will let you, it'll show the color basically. It really gives you 100% of what that color is. With drop shadows and inner shadows, inner glows, things like that, if they are not set on hard light, most of the time it'll just show up as way too dark to even see it, or it'll just default to black. So hard light is what I normally use to get these crazy colors within the text. And then you have your different options. You have distance. If you bring distance down to 0, it's just going to be on the inside. Your size. And then choke is like a cutoff point. So where do you want it to cut off at? Do you want it to fade in? Do you want it to stop like a very sharp stroke? Choke is what will allow you to do that. Then one more time, your options down here that you can mess with. So take off inner shadow, inner glow, much like the same thing. A few different options though, the size on it. And then it normally has this whitish yellow color. Let's change this to blue. You can see it works a little bit better than inner shadow does, but they all have their pros and cons based on what you're trying to do. So very simple, very same options. I'm not really going to go into depth on these. I don't want to repeat myself 1,000 times. And then Satin, excuse me if I said that incorrectly. That's how I've always said it. Nobody's ever corrected me on it, so I'm going to stick with Satin. Then your blending mode, basically inner shadow, inner glow, and Satin are all the same thing. In my head, I know some designers out there are like, oh my god, did he just say that? They're not the same thing. They're not, but they all act very, very similarly. So change this to hard light, bump this up to that, and you can see it's much like an inner glow, but from the inside. So the inner lines will give you this weird inner stroke look. If you're trying to go for like a saran wrap look or neon lights, something like that, this is going to be an effect that you want to use. And based on what your text looks like or the image that it looks like, you might want to use contour to change it up a little bit. It'll give you drastically different looks for everything that you choose. Crazy, crazy appearances. You never know what you're going to get until you really look at it. And like, I don't know where in the world I would use that, but I'm sure there's somewhere that I've done it before. Just crazy effects. Satin's honestly not my favorite blending option. Never really use it that much, but it's definitely useful. But just be careful using it. Don't overuse it, and you might want to look into it a little bit more, as I'm going to do myself. Try to get a little bit better at it. So Satin is just one of those odd ones. Color overlay. Very simple, very simplistic, and it kind of explains itself. No need to change this to hard light. You can leave it on what it is. So change this to any color that you want to. Doesn't matter what it is. It will work. So color overlay is just a quick, easy way to change a rasterized picture's color, a vectorized picture's color, anything like that. It just gives you a color over what your original color is. You can turn down the opacity on it, and it'll mix the original color with the color overlay. So now it's a blackish red. It has black as the background and red as the foreground, and they're coming together. So it's a good way to blend colors together, give you different appearances on things that you're trying to do. One of my favorite abilities. Gradient overlay. Much like color overlay, but this one gives you a gradient. Basically same options, opacity, blend mode, never really changed that. Style, you have linear, which is either, whichever way you have your angle, it'll go in one direction. Radial, emits from the circle, or from the center in a circle, and it goes outwards, much like the sun or like a light bulb does, like with a light. Angle, it gives you an angle, so it's very sharp edge here. It's white, 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 goes to black, all the way black, and then white. So it's kind of like a clock. Just imagine having the hour hand going straight up, and that's what's happening. It's just cutting off that, starting white, and it adjusts all the way around back to black, based on your colors that you have within the gradient right here. Then you have reflected. It just copies what was on the top and the bottom. So whatever your gradient is, it'll be centered. So the option all the way to the left, the color that you have on the left, if you don't have it reversed, will happen in the center, and it'll gradient up, and then it'll reflect it down. So you have reverse option here that will inverse whatever your gradient is. Then you have scale, which is the largeness of it. You can make it huge, you can make it small. That really, with every option, scale will change. With linear, generally scale needs to be a little bit higher. With radial, you're going to be working with angle and scale to be able to get it as big or as small as you're trying to do. And then, what is our next option? Diamond. Much like radial, but it's going to be a diamond in the center, and it will emit out, much like a light bulb, one more time, but if you had a diamond-shaped light bulb. So let's go back to linear. And to change your gradient, you just click on here, the little bar, whatever the colors are. Photoshop default comes with some different gradients that you can select and use. A lot of them are very odd colors. With the lines right here, I've actually used that before, believe it or not. Crazy, crazy thing to do, but somebody designed it and it's been useful. So I'm just going to go back to default. And to change your colors, you either click on the little tab right here and go down to color, or you double click on the little tab and it brings up your color options as well. So if I want a gradient from red to blue, I do that, and now you see that it's that red to blue. All the way on the ends will be all the way at the bottom and all the way at the top, based on which gradient you are using. And then you have the ability to adjust these across the scale wherever you would like. So if I want more red than I want blue, I'll bring it up to about 50. and that's halfway red, and then the rest of it's gradient to blue. And you can move this to wherever you need. The options on top are going to be your opacity options. You click it and you have opacity down here. It's already selected for you. Bring it down to whatever you want. So if I bring this down to 49, that means that I have 49% opacity on the red, which is going to be going back to the black. So the black will show more through onto the red than it will on the blue, because the blue is at 100% opacity, so it is completely covering the black, unlike the red. So bring this back up to 100% opacity. Very good, very useful. I can almost guarantee you that you will use this in most of your designs. Gradient overlays are phenomenal. They're amazing. Then press OK on that. So take off the gradient. Pattern overlay, just like color overlay, but is with a pattern. Your patterns can be made in a previous tutorial that I have. So you can see how to make a pattern. A lot of these I've made myself, or I've gotten from somebody else. So that's actually fairly interesting looking. You can create patterns and you can save them into your own pattern library. You can download patterns. They can be used with the bucket tool, or they can be used within the blending options. So 2 different places that you can get them from. But for now, I'm just going to leave it there. And it works just like color overlay does, but with patterns. So take that off. Outer glow, just like inner glow, but it's on the outside this time. It's kind of hard to see. Get a different color. Very difficult to see. Maybe I am going to do something real quick. Make it a little bit easier to see. There we go. Now you can see the outer glow is around our text. It is outlining the letters. So the color that you choose will allow you to change that. So you can see that it's a bright blue now. Kind of difficult to see on the white background, but it's very useful, and it could be used once again with like neon lights, or if you're just trying to create an outline for your text, you could do that just like we've done here. So lots of different options you can use. With this right here, you have a gradient option. It's going from blue to blue. Then you can change this. If I wanted to go from a whitish blue to a darker blue, it kind of gives you a different appearance on the outline. It's still a gradient. It's going from 100% opacity to 0 opacity, and that allows you to kind of change your colors a little bit, and you can work with the gradient or you can work with the solid color. Go ahead and uncheck outer glow, and finally drop shadow. Just like outer glow, drop shadow will give you an outline around your text, but it gives you more of a depth appearance as well. It kind of pushes your text off of the picture a little bit, and it makes it pop out really. There's lots of different options you can do with this. Tons and tons of things that you can do. It actually is my favorite ability or my blending option, because I use it so much. What I normally do with mine is a little trick that I'm going to teach you. Is I bring my distance down to 0 and bump up my size and turn down the opacity. So I'll bring it down to 50, put it on 8 or 7, and it kind of just gives you a little bit of that catch to the text. So if you're trying to bring it off of the background a little bit, give it a little bit of depth, your eyes will go to that first because it has that dark stroke around it that you may not notice once you're looking at it. So it kind of brings your attention back to the text a little bit, or whatever image you're trying to put it on. But it can absolutely give your text a lot of attention. Like, it can grab your attention a lot better, and a lot of depth coming off of the image. So let's say that you were like, okay, well now I've changed the drop shadow, but I don't like how it was. I want it to go back to default. You can reset to default. You click that, and it goes back to the original default settings. Or you can change it however you like and make it default. So those are 2 different options that you have. Be careful making it to default, because you can really kind of mess yourself up if you don't know what the original options are and you can't go back to fix it. But definitely with more experienced designers, you'll see that they have their default settings changed totally different than what it originally was. But for their style, it works that way. So that's going to be it for blending options, guys. One last thing before I go, you can make a new style. So if I wanted to save this, I can do new style, just name it style 1. Go ahead and cancel that out. You can see it under your styles tab. Now I have this right here. It's going to be called style 1. I meant to throw that in, but I forgot about it. But now we're done, and you can just click your style to throw it on there. But thank you for watching, guys, and let me know what you think about it. I really hope this helped you out a lot. Be sure to check out the blending options and mess around with them a lot, and just get your own style, your own flow with them. It'll really enhance your images a lot, and it'll help you out with making new logos or things like that. So thank you for all your support, and thank you for watching.